The big question I want to address today is, why are we funny? And by that I mean, why have humans, and as far as we know only humans, evolved a sense of humor? Because it gives us no advantage in terms of natural selection, because we can't make predators or diseases or parasites just go away by making them laugh or something like that. On the other hand, it requires some advanced cognitive resources to produce humor, so it's not free, and thus it should be selected against if it doesn't have an advantage. Well, an obvious alternative to natural selection is sexual selection, and current research gives us hints that this might be the case, because women laugh more in social interactions, especially about jokes of men, and women want men who make them laugh, and men want women who laugh about their jokes. In the literature, there are also hypotheses that other really weird things that we do, something like language, creativity, art, music, altruism, they all have been sexually selected for. The thinking is that these traits are honest signals for good genes or, for being a good parent. So if you invest a lot into painting cave walls or helping others, for example, that signals to potential mates that you can apparently afford it without struggling in life. So you must have good genes or have the capacity to care well for your offspring. Now that is the same with humor. It is strongly linked to intelligence, and humor is probably really hard to fake when you're not that intelligent. And we also know that intelligence itself is attractive and strongly linked to other traits of sexual attractiveness and fitness. I might even explore this further in the last video of this series. So the research question of this paper is, could humor have evolved through sexual selection? There are three predictions which have to come true to give the hypothesis support that yes, this might be the case. And these are, first, intelligence should predict humor ability. Second, humor ability should predict mating success. Well, ideally, we would look at reproductive success, but since this study is done in modern humans with contraception, we can't just count how many babies they have. And three, humor production should be higher in males. And this last point is the case because human females are the choosiest sex, as you might know, and even if humor indicates intelligence and good genes in both sexes, then this signal should be selected for more in males. Spoiler alert, here is what they found. Humor ability reveals intelligence, predicts mating success, and is higher in males. By the way, I find this an excellent paper title because it honestly is signaling what it has to offer. So in here, they recruited 200 male and 200 female undergrad psychology students, and they gave them intelligence and humor tests and surveys about their sex life to correlate all of these. First, they tested their intelligence with the Raven's Advanced Progressive Matrices assay, where you have to predict which shape comes next in a sequence like this one, and that tests your abstract reasoning. They then also did the verbal portion of the multidimensional aptitude battery, where you are given a word and then you have to find the word in a list of others that comes closest to the meaning of that target word. So that is mainly a test of your vocabulary skills. And then the students were given 3 cartoons, such as this one, and then they had to write as many funny captions for them as they could within 10 minutes. Captions like this one. The captions were then scored by a jury of 6 students according to funniness. So to get their mating success, the participants had to fill out surveys about their sex life with questions like these ones, and their moral attitudes and family values towards sex. Let me just wait for the cicada to end its mating call. The results were that both measures of intelligence were correlated with humor, and especially the verbal one, which also kind of makes sense. And older participants were funnier, but keep in mind that they were all just around 20 years old. Also, funnier students had more short-term and uncommitted sex. Because there are a lot of factors and parts evolved in this hypothesis, the authors needed to get a clearer picture about what influences what. So they made a fancy statistical model, which is called a structural equation model, of which I have also heard for the first time here. And this tries to calculate how each factor contributes to a concept in a network of correlations between factors and concepts. So this model shows, in the end, that humor greatly mediates the positive effect of intelligence on mating success, and it is probably the most important indicator of intelligence for other individuals. Also, humor is an equally good predictor of intelligence in both men and women. Males score higher than females on verbal intelligence, humor ability, number of captions produced, which could be explained by the men unconsciously or consciously trying to get more mates more than females, mating success, and pro-promiscuity. So in this study, more religious and more moral people were also less funny. In conclusion, the three predictions came true. Intelligence predicts humor ability predicts mating success, and males show higher average humor ability. However, as with most small-scale psychology studies, there are quite a few limitations. First of all, the participants were weird, and that stands for white, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic, which is arguably not a representative sample of humanity. Secondly, they all had a very small age variance, which I already mentioned, with almost all of them being around 20. Also, this study based their results on only one way of scoring funniness, and writing captions for cartoons might not be the most relevant skill that women look at when choosing a mate, and funniness in social contexts might work just slightly differently than that. The authors also add that further studies should control for personality types, since they probably are also highly correlated with many of the factors that this study investigated. Now this just leaves me with the inevitability of having to tell you a joke. So here it goes. What's the difference between a psychologist and a magician? A magician pulls rabbits out of hats, whereas a psychologist pulls habits out of rats. Good night.